Something that I notice myself, right? If I'm too stimulated or if I did too much preparation, then it's all in my brain. I'm like, man, where do I start? And you start explaining stuff based on your notes, but then you realize something, okay, this is later on, and you start stumbling over your words. But this sounds very interesting to me. Yeah, pick a million. Yeah, so like I wanted to discuss like verbal fluency, and it's mostly for
Ah,
myself because when I watch your videos, like your everything rolls off the tongue like a fucking boss. And
mhm,
I'm sitting here recording videos still for like an hour or two, and then I have to trim it down to 20 minutes because I
right.
mispronounce and it's weird. Like on podcasts, I'm stellar, right? I'm totally
Yeah,
fine. Where you bounce ideas back and forth. You can discuss it. If I mispronounce somewhere, you kind of continue. But if I sit there by myself recording videos, I'm like, especially
right.
medical jargon, it's
Yeah,
horrible. So
yeah.
write me a nootropic stack for verbal fluency, please.
Well, you have a couple. Well, you have at least one powerful ingredient as a start, and that's uridine. Uridine
Yeah.
is effective, usually more in combination with other things, but it's like a staple nootropic to have for verbal fluency. Because stepping back, like verbal fluency is working memory, it's episodic memory, it's information retrieval, and then it's like the neurochemistry of serving that up to your mouth and getting it out.
Mhm.
So uridine as a staple, dose range is going to differ between people. 100 to 300 milligrams is kind of the range that I would stick with. But if you pair uridine with citicoline, which is CDP choline,
Yeah.
just another bioavailable choline source, gives your brain some usable acetylcholine, and you
Mhm.
dose that in like 30 to 80 milligram quantities. And then
Oh
on
wow.
top of that, you bring in Nupept, the compound we were talking about
Mhm.
before, dose that in 5 to 10 milligram quantities. Well, then you
Mhm.
really have a potent verbal fluency stack that's targeting kind of all the underlying things related to verbal fluency. So that would be like my first suggestion. Um, Second to that, though, I think for me, it is as long as I have good stable brain energy, I am
Mhm.
relaxed, right? Because the
Yeah.
more anxious I might be, or like the more overstimulated I might be, the less verbally
Mhm.
fluent I'm going to be for sure,
Yeah.
right? So I think is a nice balance that you have to strike with stimulant nootropics, and then
Mhm.
potentially in some cases even bringing in things like L-theanine, an amino acid that affects GABA and serotonin. I
No,
think
to
you
kind of
mentioned,
relax you a
yeah,
little bit.
right.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
mean, there's a point at which the overstimulation of neurotransmitters, the excitatory ones. I
Mhm.
mean, you're probably great at multitasking, and maybe you can get some laptop work done. But when it comes to interacting with humans or speech or something, like you need to slow that down a little bit. And so, a great strategy is have your nootropic compounds that are energizing you and making you feel functional in the mix,
Mhm.
but then bring in theanine, maybe a compound called picamilin, which gives you brain available GABA. It's more potent in terms of its kind of brain tissue concentration of GABA than regular GABA. Um,
Isn't that
there's a
not too
compound,
sedating? The what is it called?
picamilin. No, yeah,
Picamil?
picamilin. Yeah, just how it sounds. I think it's Picamolin, something to this effect. It's
Mhm.
it's different for different people. But if you have a pretty strong stimulating nootropic stack in the mix, and then you
Mhm.
bring picamilin on top of it, it just kind of takes the edge off. Now, people should
All right.
obviously dose it, in a titrating manner. Like maybe start with like
Mhm.
20 milligrams of that stuff if you're going to use
Right.
picamilin. Work your way up to 100 if you need to, and just kind of see where you land. But yeah, no, for me personally, unless I'm pushing 150, 200 milligrams of that stuff, it doesn't sedate me. It
Mhm.
just, what
Okay.
it's doing is giving you a little more GABA concentrations to kind of edge off the excitatory neurotransmission from some of the
Right,
other
right,
stuff.
right. Yeah, that's
I
good.
find
That's
when I
something that I notice myself, right? If I'm too stimulated or if I did too much preparation, then it's all in my brain. And so
yeah,
today I recorded a video. Yeah, today I had like 26 pages of notes, right, of what I wanted to present about boldenone versus kidney health. So that was a huge deep dive video that I prepared for. Then it's all in your
yeah.
brain. And like, I'm like, man, where do I start? And you start explaining stuff based on your notes, but then you realize something, okay, this is later on, and you start stumbling over your words. But this sounds very interesting to me. Yeah, pick a million.
Yeah.
On a
Yeah.
let's compare that to GABA supplementation or Phenibut supplementation. Like, let's say you have a low dose of GABA, a low dose of Phenibut to kind of take the edge off at the end of the day. We're like, how on a scale from 1 to 10 would be like a substantial dose of this Picamillin compare? Is it comparable?
Yeah, it can be comparable. I think you'd have to take, to reach phenibut like effects, which
Hmm.
phenibut believes GABA B receptor modulator. It probably has some action at the GABA A, comparable to a benzo, so very effective in
Yeah.
reducing anxiety. You would have to dose picamillin in like the minimally 300 to 700 milligram quantities, and
Oh,
most people
Jesus.
aren't going to want to go that high because of that
Mhm.
effect. So yeah, it can be comparable so long as you're dosing it, in that range. Micro dosing it or dosing it in again 100 or so milligrams, on the low end 20, on the high end 100 milligrams. That's kind of where
Yeah.
you get that solid
Okay.
balance. But then, I mean, there's times like where it's like, I don't know, I don't love phenibut just because of its action on GABA B and how potent it
Hmm.
is, and there could be
Yeah.
withdrawals from it.
Yeah.
But
For
like, there's
sleeping,
just
that's it.
yeah, yeah, totally. It'll knock you out, man. But
Yeah.
for those times when you kind of just need to remember what it feels like to not have an overactive brain, like
Hmm.
entrepreneurs especially, like I know what you mean. Like we're ADD in our own right, and we think all of
Right.
the time, and so there's just always shit going on.
Hmm.
Phenibut is amazing for slowing some of that stuff down, but Picamillin could be a good alternative.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm very interested in this compound. I'll definitely start researching a little bit more. This sounds like a compound you would definitely have in the back of your pocket when there's public speaking involved, because that's
sure,
probably
definitely.
the most important, like a TED talk, for example. Not
Hmm.
that I would ever
Hmm.
get invited to a TED talk, but
Right.
something of that nature, where that, okay, I'm
Never
sitting in
know.
front of like a, yeah, you never know, right? You sit in front of 1,000 people, and then also when the video goes live, you get like 6 million views. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Pick a Miller would definitely help
Insane.
with that.
Imagine the
Yeah.
anxiety that comes with that. Yeah, I
Oh
mean
yeah.
dude, it'd be nuts. Like, but yeah, I just think it's about striking that balance. The stimulation is useful
Mm,
for kind of the cognitive function that you need to recall all the stuff that you're going to say and whatever.
mm,
But the toning down of some of that stimulation, which doesn't
mm,
negate the stimulation, it just balances that. I mean, that's
right.
how verbal fluency ultimately happens. But on the other hand, I mean, like, I don't know, I've always been a photogenic guy or a charismatic dude. Like,
Mm,
so verbal fluency, like I am better at that, I guess, naturally, because I don't think about what I'm saying as much perhaps as other people, and so that
mm,
helps. But
yeah.
largely, it's manipulatable via nootropics for sure.
So would that be able to be compounded into like a formula? Because now that YouTube is getting more popular, and I notice it, like I have consultations with guys that want to get started on YouTube, and because I
Mhm.
struggle a little bit with the recording myself sometimes,
Yeah,
um, like you see all these nootropics for gaming, you see
right,
these nootropics for studying, the Adderall replacements and the modafinil replacements, and but I don't see anything for verbal fluency. And then
right.
everybody's on social media now, right? The
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram,
Oh,
YouTube, and but a lot of people are not so good at the presenting part, or at least not yet.
right.
And
Yep.
I feel that I still suck after 5 years on YouTube. Yeah, I
Me
still
too
suck at it.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
horrible,
Yeah,
right?
it's just a
It's horrible.
gradual thing, man. You get better
Yeah,
over the years. Yeah, I
I
mean,
think I think there will be a market for it. Yeah.
definitely. There are a couple pre-made stacks that are effective at that. We make one, so it's called Cortex. I have it right in front of me here. This stuff
Mhm.
has uridine, citicoline. It's got artichoke extract, has some bacopa in it. So I was started taking this before we made it a commercial stack. I don't know,
Mhm.
10 years ago, and I was like looking for a modafinil alternative, and I
Right.
found it in that stack. But I also realized when I took it, it made me like a lot more verbally fluent than normal. So Cortex is a good option. Again,
Mhm.
uridine, CDP choline, artichoke extract, and bacopa. People can
Yeah.
play around the doses. They want to do that themselves and kind of put that stuff together and get in a good place. But yeah, otherwise I'll tell you what, there are no formulations that are marketed as verbal fluency
No.
nootropics.
No,
Right. So like
I've
that
looked.
that would
I've
I'm sure
looked.
you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I've looked. What I like I haven't tried any of your products, of course, because I'm sponsored by Gorilla Mind and I get their products quite readily.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Derek just
Cool.
released the Gorilla Mind Respawn, and it's actually
Yeah.
very similar to your cortex. It's got L-tyrosine, alpha-GPC,
Mm,
which is a different form of choline, uridine
yep.
monophosphate,
Mm,
ginkgo biloba, and L-theanine
mm.
to kind of take the edge off, and a little bit of saffron extract. And I
Ah,
noticed that
saffron.
for
Cool.
yeah, it's nice. So I noticed that I've been taking this for the last couple of weeks, and my video quality has definitely improved quite a bit. So
Good, man.
that's why I asked, because I saw in your product list that you have some similar products, and I
Yep.
think in this day and age where people are getting on social media, products like this, if you experiment it and whatever product you like more, just fucking use that one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
There's so many different ones. You just go with the one that works for you. I
Yeah.
think it's very beneficial, because in the end, like, verbal fluency for YouTube or social media in general, that's kind of the future
Yeah.
of entrepreneurship, right? You use social
Yes.
media as your marketing platform to show
1000%.
expertise, and it sure as hell beats working for somebody else.
Yeah. Oh,
I've done that
definitely.
for a couple of years, and yeah, and even though the money was good, it wasn't as good as being on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's just not fun. And you're right. Like everybody and their sister is like a fucking TikToker now these days. Like it's totally
Yeah,
it's real. And they're all like filming themselves at the gym. It's
yeah,
getting a little bit annoying, but for sure, I mean,
it is.
nootropics, dude. I mean, they have it's like when I got into it 15 years ago, they were popular and people knew about them and
Mm.
people were taking them, but not a lot of people. It's like this underground kind of thing. It was considered like
Yeah.
cheating cognitively. But over the last 15 years, it's just become more and more popular.